jack it up.
Hurts keeps, Hurts cuts, Hurts has the first down, and Jalen Hurts might have just put it away for the Eagles. Touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers are going to win this game. Joel, tough turnaround in the lane. Another 30-10 performance for Joel Embiid.
Hurts connects with Devontae Smith.
All right, hello and welcome back to the 2-5 Scoop. We're back again. It's been a couple of weeks. We took a little bit of a hiatus for the offseason, just kind of regroup after that detrimental and kind of heartbreaking Game 7 against the Celtics. Got the chance to sit back and kind of watch that Heat-Celtics series, which was very intense. I mean, it looked like it was going to be easy. It looks like it was going to be the most lame conference finals matchups in the playoffs maybe ever. It looked like it was going to sweep. Nuggets obviously swept LeBron and the Lakers, but then Celtics obviously came back from 3-0, tied at 3-3, and then the Heat won Game 7. And fun fact about that game is it was Friday night after the Celtics tied the series at 3, forcing a Game 7. I told my buddies, I was like, the Heat are winning Game 7. I'm telling you, they're gonna win Game 7. Like historically, there's a reason why teams are what's the stat, like 142-0 when they're up 3-0 in a series?
Yeah, I think it's in the 150s.
Yeah, something like that. And it's just like, why wouldn't you expect the Heat to win? Because historically, it's on their side. It doesn't matter if the Celtics won 3 straight and tied it and forced it to go to 7. The Heat are going to win. So I was like, I made a deal with my buddy. I was like, $50, they win. And he was like, all right, bet. I got my money on the Celtics, so I want to win like $100.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's that. So that's but right now we're in the midst of the NBA Finals. Nuggets Heat. What is it? 1-0 Nuggets right now. I really attention. I've been working pretty much nonstop. So
Game 2 is tonight. As of us recording this right now.
Yep. Game 2 is tonight. So we'll see. But today we'll talk about that a little bit, but mostly I want to talk about the Sixers. First off, let's go right back to Game 7 out of the post-game press conferences and how Embiid and Harden both reacted to the Game 7 loss. I know, actually, you wanted to touch on that, so why don't you go for it?
Yeah, so I mean, the Harden one, really, there's not a lot to get out of that. It was just kind of reporters asking him about his future in Philly and him just kind of deflecting those and saying no comment. But, I mean, later there were reports. Obviously, Houston is the heavy favorite now for his next landing spot. There were reports from his camp that he wants a winning team where he also has basketball freedom, which, I mean, if you look at the career of James Harden, him having basketball freedom does not necessarily translate to winning a championship-level team. So I don't know really what he's thinking with that.
Well, it's really weird because, like, I mean, before the season started, I remember when he restructured his deal prior to this past season and everything because he wanted the Sixers to be in shape to win. And he was giving us all these quotes and saying, like, I get that I'm not going to have that, the same impact that I had in Houston. I'm not going to have that same exact role. I'm going to be more of like, I'm going to pass. I'm going to make plays happen. But now he's turning around and he's saying, no, like I want basketball freedom. Like I want to do whatever the hell I want on the floor. I don't want to be constricted. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like I understand that you could learn over time that that's just better for you. But at the same time, it's just like completely different story this offseason as opposed to last offseason with him.
Yeah, definitely seems like a big 180 from the. I mean, it just feels like we were kind of lied to with him taking a little dip in the contract money so the Sixers could have more salary cap space, and then it seems like he was like moving off ball, taking catch and shoot shots. Like we were like, oh, there's a whole new James Harden. He's fitting into a winning culture. And then the Sixers lose. And then he's like, okay, I want the ball in my hands all the time now again. And I'll go somewhere that lets me do it.
And the thing is about Harden is he just doesn't realize that he doesn't have it anymore. I mean, credit to him. He scored 40 in 2 of those games against the Celtics and led us to a win. But that doesn't tell you that like anybody could go off for 40. I mean, if you remember back in 2016, 2017, we saw Furkan Korkmaz go off for like 38 out of nowhere. So just like I don't know. I get it. He's James Harden, and he has had a profound effect. He's been a very, very good player throughout the majority of his career, but he's just getting up there in age. Like, he can't really drive in the way he used to. He can't make plays in the paint. He just flops and loses the ball, and he's just not the same player. And the sooner he realizes that, it's better for him, because he's going to go out to the Rockets, and the Rockets pretty okay position right now as far as being a winning team. I mean, but I don't know, dude. James Harden just pisses me off on all assets, in all aspects of his game, off court, on court. He pisses me off.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think one thing that we can learn from the not only this year's finals, but the two teams in last year's finals, the Celtics and the Warriors, and then the Heat and the Nuggets this year, there's just no room for like ego on these winning teams. Like the Heat, they have like 8 guys in their rotation. They're undrafted. They were like late first round, second round picks. They have Jimmy Butler, who's like team first. I'll score if I have to. I'll play make. I'll play defense. I don't need credit. That's what everyone on the Heat's like. That's what everyone on the Nuggets is like. You don't see Nikola Jokic coming off in a press conference, like moving on to the Joel Embiid thing, saying it can't just be me out here. He'll put up a 30-point triple-double if he has to. I mean, those are winning players.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, I've made this point earlier this year. I made it last year. I made it, I kind of caught on to this trend. I'm sure everybody has. If you look at now we're looking at the past 4 finals. The end of the super team era is long gone. So the idea that you're going to put together all these big egos and all these really good players and expect great success, it's just not a recipe. It's not a recipe for championships in this league anymore. I mean, the Nuggets, they have Nikola Jokic, then they have guys like Jamal Murray stepping up, and the star on the Heat. You got Jimmy Butler, and then you got Bam, and you got all these other role players that kind of step up and show up like they should. And you look at the team like the Nets who had Kevin Durant, James Harden, they had a super team put together, and they got swept, and they lost in the second round. They didn't get past the second round with that team. You look at the Suns. They lost in the second round. They choked in the conference finals last year. So if you're looking at these teams, these super teams with all these high egos, and it's great, a lot of talent, it doesn't add up to a championship. What you need is one star player that's a rock, that's truly a leader. I'm talking to you, Joel. Like Joel Embiid, he's 28 right now, 28 or 29. He's getting up there.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
He's getting up there. It's time to grow up. You're a dad. Your son's almost 2 years old. Like time to grow up, be a leader. Like not saying be a father to this team, because you're basically, you could be looking at a team in the next year that's mostly younger than you. So you got to step up, be that leader, be that veteran. Although you haven't had that much success in the playoffs, Joel Embiid, you just got to be a leader. That's what these successful teams have. Giannis on the Bucks in 2021. Last year the Warriors, they had Steph
and
Clay and Draymond. That's talented and stuff. But I would only say at this point that Steph's like the only true star. Like Draymond, he's like always been a defensive, like he's your great defensive guy. Klay Thompson, not the same since that injury. So it's like I would call Steph Curry to be like the main star of that team. And you had guys like Jordan Poole step up. Klay Thompson obviously stepped up. You had Draymond Green, clamped down on defense and everything. You need a leader, and then you need role players that follow the leader. That's what it comes down to. It's pretty simple. And the fact that the Sixers haven't gotten this concept down, the management hasn't gotten this concept down, and that Joel Embiid hasn't caught on to this concept, it just mind boggles me. Because if they caught on to it this past year, we could very well be looking at a team that's playing tonight. But no, they're all full of themselves. Joel Embiid's full of himself. He only wanted the MVP. James Harden's always going to be James Harden. He's always going to be full of himself. Just wants the ball. Just wants to be like, oh, look at me. I scored 40. Like, I don't know. I could go on a whole rant about it, but
so with the Nick Nurse signing, what not only cultural changes, but what like kind of schematic changes and the changes to the personnel on the team should he make?
So obviously about a week ago, Nick Nurse was hired as Sixers head coach. Now, what I expect is Nick Nurse is the polar opposite from Doc in the aspect that Doc is very rigid in his ways. He definitely he doesn't really make adjustments. He doesn't think outside the box. He kind of just throws. He has like one rotation and he doesn't really change much. I mean, towards the end, he made some. I'll give him credit. He made some, but Nick Nurse is always looking for looking for different ways to maximize the roster, and that's why I think a lot of people wanted Monty Williams or some other big names out there. I mean, it was between Monty and Nick Nurse. But the reason why I think Nick Nurse was the best possible hire, was the best name out there for the Sixers, is because Nick Nurse is flexible. He can make different things happen with a particular roster. So he looks at the Sixers, and I don't know if you followed his press conference, but he said, quote unquote, this team could be playing today. This was the day of the game 1 of the finals on June 2nd, June 1st. So Nick Nurse looks at this Sixers team and sees the potential for a championship team. So that gives me confidence. I just feel like Nick Nurse is going to be drastically different than Doc in the way that he's just going to think outside the box. He's going to find different ways to just maximize the talent on this roster, which kind of brings me hope as far as the future of the franchise. You know, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we were both kind of kissing the process goodbye. This franchise it's just going to be a dumpster fire for the next several years.
Yeah.
But now with Nick Nurse as head coach, I don't know if that's. There's a reasonable shot. I have more faith than I did 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah. Well, here's the things that have changed besides the Nurse hiring is that, I mean, I think we both kind of expected the Embiid trade rumors to start flying as soon as the season ended, and that hasn't happened. So it seems like we're going to buckle down into another year of Embiid, for better or worse, whatever you think about that. We have the MVP coming back. We have a new coach. Harden, I mean, something in my head just tells me he's gone this year. I think he's checked out.
I think with Harden, for one, I don't want him to return. As I've kind of clearly shown, I don't like James Harden anymore. I don't want him here, but I don't think he's going to want to stay. I don't think he wants to play next to Joel. I think Joel is too talented for James Harden to play next to. James Harden wants to be the number one option on his team, and he's simply not going to be that here. Joel Embiid's going to be the number one option always. So just based on those two factors, knowing James Harden's personality, the nightlife in Philadelphia isn't like you could find better in Houston. Yeah, I know James Harden. He's going to be a partier, so I think a homecoming for James Harden is definitely, it's pretty much in the books at this point.
I agree.
It's just that my question is, has he opted out as a player option yet, or was it just like he intends to?
Yeah, I don't think it's official yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think there's like a day, there's like a deadline coming up where all the players have to opt out or opt in.
So actually, I want to pull up something real quick, and it's about Nick Nurse, and I looked at his at the Raptors and how they were before Nick Nurse came in, and the effect Nick Nurse had afterwards, at least for a year or two. Let me look. The Raptors season outcomes. I'm gonna look at this. So before Nick Nurse,
I know where you're going. This is the LeBronto kind of getting owned by LeBron.
So from 2013, so 2013, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, and 2017. So for 5 years straight, they failed to make it past the second round, sometimes with first round exits. Nick Nurse comes in, and they go on a championship run, and they win it all. They get over the hump with Nick Nurse. Obviously, there's a difference. They got Kawhi that year.
Yeah.
So a little bit of X factor there. But in terms of the trajectory of the Raptors franchise before and after Nick Nurse came in, it sounds like incredibly familiar to what's going on with the Sixers. I mean, we look at the past 5 years of the Sixers. Lost in the second round to the Celtics. Lost in the second round to the Raptors. lost in the first round to the Celtics, lost in the
Hawks.
second round to the Heat, lost to the second round to the Celtics.
And the Hawks.
First comes in. What?
The Hawks, too. Second round
the Hawks too. Yeah, I forgot about them.
One more.
Just adds to the list.
Yeah.
The Sixers team has struggled, and the rosters have changed dramatically from year to like a little bit. At least we brought in a few guys. Like they've had different rosters. They've tried switching things up, and they just couldn't make it happen. Same thing that was happening with the Raptors. They were kind of trying to switch things up, sign different guys, just didn't work out. Then they brought Nick Nurse in. Nick Nurse took a look at the roster. He was like, hey, we can actually make something happen. Now, again, Kawhi Leonard joined, but it just goes to say the effect that Nick Nurse can have as a head coach. Now, granted, afterwards, he did struggle a little bit after that year. I think they got eliminated in the conference finals the following year. And then they've lost second round since. I think they missed the playoffs this year. But that's just because Kawhi. It's mostly because Kawhi, their star, has been injured. I'm sorry.
He's gone.
He's gone.
I mean, the thing with Nurse, too, is if you look at those Raptors teams, except for, I think it was 2021,
yeah,
those teams have overachieved every single year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at let's look at this. So 2018, 2019, they went 58-24.
Yeah.
2019, 2020. I know the Nick Nurse won Coach of the Year that year.
Yeah, he did.
They went 53-19, and that was with a bunch of bozos, pretty much. Like I don't think that roster was that talented.
Yeah, that was post Kawhi. So they had, I think, Siakam. That was like his first year of being like an all-star level player.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, they just had a lot of guys that bought into the system. Good role players, good defenders. That's what the Raptors built themselves on.
2021, they struggled. They only went 27-45. But since then, I mean, Nick Nurse has been a winning coach or more. They went 48-24 last year, and then this year they went 500, missing the playoffs. But still, they barely missed the play-in, or they were in the play-in.
They were in the play-in, and that team, Van Vliet, was terrible this year. That team was not as talented as it was before. They probably shouldn't even have gone 500.
Yeah, I mean, again, you make a tremendous point, and it just goes to show. I mean, it just gives me all the more faith that Nick Nurse can truly turn this team around.
Yeah, but, and if I can add one more thing to the Nick Nurse, he has won pretty much everywhere he's gone. So before he was the Raptors coach, he coached their D-League team, won 2 D-League championships in 3 years. He won a BBL championship. When he was over in Belgium, he won the Belgium Cup. When he was in England, they won the English Cup. I mean, just whatever league he's in, whatever team he's coaching, that team wins. That team overachieves. That's what I like about him. And again, he's very flexible. He can take whatever players. He conforms to the system. I just think that this Sixers team can maximize their potential with Nurse as their coach.
Yes, and as we all know, the max potential for the Sixers team is a championship. They bring it home to Larry O'Brien. So we'll see. But I do want to touch on Nick Nurse and his thoughts on James Harden. So obviously, his opening press conference, it was Nick Nurse. James Harden was probably one of the top things that he was asked about.
Yeah.
So when he was asked, he was like, the reporter asked him, he said, do you want James Harden to come back? And Nick Nurse was hesitant. He was like, James is a great player. Reporter comes back, that didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
Nurse comes back and he says, well, James has a decision to make, but I would certainly love to see him back. Now, obviously, I don't think either of us agree with Nick Nurse, but, do you think he's being honest? Or, because I don't think he would go up to a mic and be like, yeah, no, I don't want James back. I feel like that's kind of a trap, kind of a question that's kind of a trap. Like, you can't not say yes there, you know?
Yeah. Otherwise, you, kind of isolate. You already put yourself at a distance from Harden if you say no, and then he comes back. He already doesn't like you, and you haven't even started coaching the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially since James hasn't made a decision. I mean, it's up to James Harden where he goes.
Right.
It's not really in Nick's hands. So, I mean, honestly, I feel like that question was kind of pointless because if he genuinely does not want to see James Harden back, he's not going to say it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. But if you were to put a grade to this Nick Nurse hiring, what would you put it at?
I'll say A. I mean, I think it was either between him or Budenholzer. I would have liked to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would probably put it at like an A- because like it's definitely in an A range. I mean, the reason why I'm getting an A- is because I still have to see how he actually fixes. Because I get nervous and I feel like there's gonna be like a Philly effect. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like whenever we get like a good coach or like a really good player, they come here and they're just ass. They just
Yeah,
suck. It's just like the Philly
it does
effect.
happen a lot.
It's like oh like awesome like when we hired Doc Rivers, I was like oh dang like I thought he's pretty nice when we first hired him. Like I thought I was just kind of excited. I was a little nervous. I'm more confident in this hiring for sure than I was in Doc, but at the same time, I'm just like maybe there's a Philly effect. Maybe there's a genuine like roster problem with the Sixers and they can't be solved with coaching.
Yeah.
That's my nervous. That's my
A good
thing.
coach doesn't change everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure out. I mean, we've gone over this again and again, but you got to figure out what you're doing with Harden. Personally, I would like to see him and his $30 million cap hit go pick up 2 the good role players, 3-and-D guys that buy into the system. The blueprint is set by Nick Nurse's 2019 Raptors team. We have Kawhi Leonard. We have the MVP. Embiid needs to buy in. And then we just got to put the pieces around him. Tyrese Maxey, Pascal Siakam took such a big step up when Nick Nurse became the coach of that Raptors team. I think we could see a similar thing with Tyrese Maxey.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I absolutely agree. I think you make a really good point about how similar this Sixers team is to that 2019 Raptors team. Really, it's just you have to copy it. I think Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey, they're boys. I think Nick Nurse has a coaching history he was in Houston, coached their G League team, I believe. I know there's a connection there. That's why Daryl brought him in. But like you said, I mean, I'm very excited about this hiring. It's just a matter now. We have to play the waiting game. We have to wait. What? It's May. We got to wait. How many months until the season begins? 5 more months. We got to wait 5 more months until we actually see it in action. But excited for what's in store. We will be back. We'll probably do a free agency preview, see what names the Sixers will look for. We're still waiting on the James Harden decision. Is there a date that he has to make that decision by, or?
I'm not sure. I don't even know when NBA free agency starts.
I think it's like July 1st. It's usually like July. It's usually like beginning of July.
It is early July. And then with the Eagles, OTAs are coming up soon. Training camp's coming up soon. I think mid-June that all starts.
Yes, that's correct. And then we got the 2023 season did come out a couple weeks back, so we will be back next week, and we will do a full-fledged. We'll do a season prediction. We'll look across the league, see how everything's going to look in the NFL next year. But lots of exciting stuff. It's off season. We're both missing basketball and football dearly right now. I mean, we got the NBA Finals. It's exciting.
It's all over soon.
Yeah, it's all over in about 2 weeks. Yep, then it's back to the Phillies, who are piss poor this year. So anyway, everybody enjoy your weekend. Have a good week. Stay cool. It's supposed to get really hot depending on where you live, but at least in the Philly area and up here at State College, it's very warm. So stay cool. And we will catch you guys later.
See you.